Hey, good evening, friends. Welcome back to Rock and Roll Shin-Soo Choo, episode 6. My name is Gabe Estel, and I am here with my co-host, my good buddies Dennis Levi Leach and Jonathan Getz. How's it going, fellas?
Doing
Pretty
good.
good.
Excellent. Good to see you. Good to see you. I've been looking forward to this episode for quite a while. It's summertime, and the festival season is underway. We're already the start of July here, and a few festivals have already happened, and got plenty more, big and small, coming up. So we're going to talk about one particular festival, sort of the cream of the crop, I think, when it comes to American music festivals. And it's Bonnaroo. But we're going to do our own thing. We're going to do our own twist on that. Shoe, okay? So we're going to talk about our take on our own Bonnaroo. We're going to talk about Bonnaroo kind of as an institution a little bit as well. Levi's attended Bonnaroo quite a few times. I've attended a couple times as well. It's like I said, it's kind of become the premier, or at least maybe the most unique in the sense of all the collaboration that happens between the artists for American music festivals. So it's a special festival. So we're going to talk about it as well as our kind of ideal Bonnaroo if the three of us were put in charge of booking the main acts. So it should be a lot of fun. And we're going to start the show talking a little bit about baseball, and then at the end we're going to close it out with showing our baseball cards as well. So it should have a lot of fun tonight. I'm looking forward to it. Guys, right now, we're approaching the halfway point of the season. We've got about 2 weeks until the All-Star game, a little bit less than 2 weeks, I think. And so we're sitting here, and this is kind of the time of year where, yes, a lot of things can still happen, but it's most likely that the good teams are probably going to remain pretty good. It's already the 1st of July. Could be wrong. A lot could happen, but most likely, I'm saying we kind of know where each of our teams are, I think, right now. Jonathan might have the most up in the air for the Royals, I think, just because they could overtake that division, or they could slide. Whereas I think with the Cubs, yeah, with the Cubs and the White Sox, I think we kind of know where we're at this point, and it's probably not that good. Although the Cubs have pretty well over the last couple weeks. So I just wanted to get you guys' take on maybe your biggest surprise or your biggest disappointment for your team, or just this baseball season in general. Anything really stand out to you guys so far? So Levi, I'll start with you about the Cubs, or just around the league. Anything kind of stand out to you so far?
Well, the Cubs the last couple months,
right?
They haven't played awful.
No.
Especially this last month, and
June.
Yeah, and so, we're obviously not competing in the division. So, part of me says we should maybe call up some of the guys in AAA that are doing studly things right now. There's the Alcantara. There's Bryant, who is already hitting AAA pitching just as hard as he was AA pitching.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe give them, the last, month or two of the season at least to, get some major league at-bats. Don't promise them that they're going to make the team next year or anything, but if we're not in it to win it, so why not at least give those guys the experience of a call-up,
Because aside from, Castro and Rizzo, you guys don't really have anybody that's, untouchable, or that couldn't be moved if somebody ever came up and planted them. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Those are the only two guys I would say that are untouchable. Right. Everyone on the pitching staff will trade. We'll trade all the outfield. It's...
Yeah.
And, there are some good players, but, nobody's doing things that aren't, not trade-worthy.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, they and then also for you guys, Arrieta's pitched really well over his last few starts.
Yeah, last night he almost had a no-hitter again. Took it into, I think it was the 8th
against the Red Sox.
So he had 7 2/3, I think, or something like that is what he got. But game, I think, going into the 6th it was.
Is this his first year with the Cubs?
As far as I know, yes, because I don't remember him last year.
On Baltimore,
but I'm not positive.
Because I remember he was pretty touted on Baltimore, and I don't think he really panned out. Another guy that with the Cubs, I didn't know you had this guy until, obviously because I'm up with my son, I'm watching a lot of 3 a.m. highlights. I didn't know you had Chris Coughlin until like a few games.
Oh yeah, 2005, whatever. No, 2009.
Right. Yeah.
And so and it's weird that he like fell from grace that far to where he's on the Cubs 5 years later. But he hasn't played that bad the last month. The first couple months of the season, he was kind of scrapping a little bit, but he's turned it around. And so, I mean, there's dynamic to the team. I mean, you can kind of feel it some days, but then other days they can't get a hit. So that's the major leagues, though.
From a few people, it hasn't translated into wins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for, again, though, the last 2 weeks have been good. They've been in the right direction, certainly. So
yeah.
Excellent. Jonathan, what about you? Do you anything about the Royals or even beyond the Royals?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was, I like to sit and just look at the stats, on Sunday mornings, and. I think that there's a chance, and it's been a long time, it seems like, that we could either have 100 stolen bases by a single player in a year or have 300 strikeouts by a single player in a year. And I don't know the last time either one of those happened. I imagine Ricky Henderson was involved or Nolan Ryan was involved. But David Price, he's not too far back from being on pace for 300 strikeouts for the year. He's got about 140 some. And stolen bases, I think it's who was it? Not Altuve, was it? But
Altuve's got
somebody's got like 40. 44.
D. Gordon has 50.
D. Gordon. Yeah, D. Gordon, you're right. So, and D. Gordon's got about 9 triples. What's that?
50 stolen bases by July 1st is he's stealing a lot of bases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he stays healthy, then
a lot of bases.
Yeah. I unfortunately I didn't get to see him when I saw the Dodgers in town last week. He didn't. He had the night off. So, but those two things are intriguing from just a purely statistical standpoint. Otherwise, guys like Troy Tulowitzki, Victor Martinez actually staying healthy and tearing up the league. It's not surprising. It's just nice to see them staying healthy.
Right.
Otherwise, with the Royals, recently it's been the rise of Lorenzo Cain. Cain, it was one of those pieces that came over in this Greinke deal with the Brewers. Him and Alcides Escobar came over in that deal. So that's working out pretty well for the Royals, and Cain is really another guy who's finally able to stay healthy, and he's established himself at the top of that order. In addition to that, the Royals starting pitching. The fact that James Shields is kind of their fourth best pitcher right now fourth best starting pitcher is pretty interesting. If you would have thought about that at the beginning of the year. So again tonight it looks like he's having another below average night against the Twins. But if that's their situation going into September, October, then they'll be in good shape. And as long as Ned Yost has the wherewithal to not necessarily start James Shields in game 1 of a playoff series and use somebody who's got the hot hand, even though he might be young, like Yordano Ventura, then
that's who I'd go.
Yeah,
if I had to start in game 1. Yeah.
Even though you got Big Game James, I don't think you use Big Game James if he's got a 4.0 ERA going into October.
You go with the best pitcher on that given day. You know what I mean? I don't care.
Exactly.
Yeah, Levi, I can tell. I don't care who's got the bigger contract, who has more stature. Like the best dude at that particular moment, he's the one who goes out there.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, cool, man. Yeah, good observations all around. I don't really know what to make of the Royals because it's like Detroit will win a few and the Royals will lose a few, and then the Royals will win a lot and Detroit will start losing. So, I mean, I guess it'll be kind of fun to. It's not that much fun for me since they play in my team's division, but yeah, I mean they're gonna be fighting it out. I think it could be fun to watch those two teams fight back and forth for the second half of the season. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Yeah, I mean for the White Sox, obviously, I mean all the attention has really kind of been focused on one guy, and it's pretty obvious who that guy is. Gordon Beck. Just kidding. It's right. So yeah, obviously, I don't even really want to focus on Abreu because like it's pretty obvious. Like that's he's our offense essentially. He's tearing it up at kind of pretty unprecedented levels. So might have a rookie. That's very likely. So we'll see. But the thing that stands out to me, one thing that has happened kind of quietly, is Alexei Ramirez has really become one of the best shortstops in the American League defense. And I think he's done that rather quietly. I don't think he gets a lot of attention for it. But, like there's some people over in the National League, like Tulowitzki's having a monster year. But really, if you look around the American League, he's one of the best now. It took him a little while to get there. I think he's over 30 now, and but yeah, he's really good. And he's been another bright spot. I mean, he's been good for a few years, but he finally looks like he's become the player that maybe people thought he would be, or the potential is finally. So he didn't come into baseball until he was about 20 into the big leagues until he was about 25 or 26. So, we kind of had that as a disadvantage because he was a little bit of a late start. And now, he's sort of like he hits his stride when he's like 31.
Yeah, I didn't realize he's that old. Wow.
Yeah.
Neither did I.
Yeah, he played in Cuba for a good number of years. And then we signed him in 08, and I think he was 25 when we got him in 08. So yeah, do the math. So he's 30, 31. So yeah, he's been really a pleasant surprise. So on a very kind of frustrating team that 2.5 weeks ago was 2 games out of first place, and now is 8-9 games out of first place. So been frustrating season for both teams in Chicago. Like I said, good individual performances, but for neither team has really been able to capitalize on all that and make it cohesive so they can win games. So yeah, good recap of the first half of the season. Moving on to sort of the main course of this evening. Bonnaroo Music Festival happens every year in June in Manchester, Tennessee, which is a little ways outside of Nashville. And I've made the trek over there a few times. It's been a few years. I know Levi's made the trek over there quite a few times. And so it's become a rock and roll institution now, really. I would, you guys, you can agree, disagree. I don't know. It seems like Bonnaroo, Lollapalooza, and Coachella would kind of be like the 3 big American festivals that can kind of book anybody. You know what I mean? Like those 3, like nobody's off the table for, it seems like, who they can get, who they can book. Yeah. Like just anybody. It could be the biggest pop act. It could be, the most venerable kind of, biggest classic rock act. It could really be just about anybody that those 3 festivals can book. And Bonnaroo stands out a little bit from those others, the other 2 and other festivals, because it's become a very collaborative experience for the artists there. It's kind of like they took that sort of jam band kind of improvisational ethos, and that's permeated kind of a lot of the lineup there. You see people who normally wouldn't sit in with other people play, together, and they play late into the night sometimes, and they play covers, and they. Stevie, I wasn't there, unfortunately, because he's a guy I've always wanted to see, but Stevie Wonder was there a few years ago, and I don't really know, I think Stevie Wonder just kind of does sort of like a greatest hits thing, even though he's such a phenomenal musician. At Bonnaroo, he walked on stage and he tore up his set list, and he's like, "Let's do it. Let's do whatever we want." So you don't really see that at a lot of festivals, but you see it at Bonnaroo. So that makes it pretty special. And before we get into our lineups, Levi and I actually went to the very first Bonnaroo in 2002, and at the time, I would say that. I still like a lot of the bands that played there. Certainly, It would be like a lineup I don't know if I would get as excited about today, because it was a very granola kind of crunchy sort of lineup.
Oh yeah, all of the jam band hitters of the time.
Yeah, everybody
were
was there. Yeah, it was just like they like converged them all on one spot. But then the next year you had Neil Young and Crazy Horse playing there, and you had Sonic Youth playing there. And so since then, the lineup is just – it can be anybody. I mean, hell, Levi, I think – didn't you go one year where Metallica played it?
Yeah, Metallica. Yeah, they were a headliner one year.
Yeah, you go
Tore it up, man.
Yeah.
It was a great show.
You go from Widespread Panic as a headliner to like 6 years later you go to Metallica as a headliner. It's like that's good. That's a good thing to me. I like both of those bands.
I like the eclecticness. I think that's what draws so many people to that festival.
Absolutely. It's got just sort of there's no limits, for like who can play, and they, like I said, they approach it a little differently. They know that there's sort of collaborative spirits in the air. So really cool festival. And it seems like now Bonnaroo, they start like sort of on a Thursday night now, but there isn't really a headliner for Thursday night per se. It's not a lot of the smaller bands sort of play on Thursday night, and then there's a Friday night headliner, a Saturday night headliner, and then a Sunday night headliner. And then also, just to tell our listeners kind of the format of Bonnaroo, there's also really these kind of high profile late night shows now. Like the first year that Levi and I went, the late night show meant Mo playing until like 7 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah. It was daylight walking back to our
It was insane. Yeah, I remember like passing out, and then and they were like 2 hours into their set. I woke up and they were like still playing, for like another hour and a half, right? Yeah. But anyway, that was kind of the late night, the first year, excuse me. Now, the late night sets are pretty high profile artists, not with all due respect to Mo, sort of, like Kanye West played a late night set. They have these sort of collaborative super jam things that have late night sets. Like I want to say even like, don't go with this, like R. Kelly might have played like a late night set like a few years ago, but he played with like My Morning and other artists that I can't normally imagine that he collaborates with.
Mule and Friends, and they literally brought up like a who's who of rock and roll to play with them.
Yeah, John Paul Jones played with them, right? Yeah.
John Paul Jones, Yorma and Jack Cassidy from Jefferson Airplane, Bob Weir, who was drunk and almost fell down the steps to get on the stage because we were VIP, so we could watch from the side of the stage. And
was he wearing short shorts by any chance?
Oh yeah, short shorts and sandals.
He loves
Bob Weir and a polo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Luther Dickinson got up and played with them, and I'm trying to think who else.
How big of a stage is that?
The one that this was, I don't know. It was one of the tents, the late night tents. I guess if you were walking into Bonnaroo, it would be in the southeast corner, I guess.
And when we say tent, even though it's a tent, that means like
it's huge.
20,000 people could be watching them.
Yeah.
Okay. They're more like gigantic barns that you would house like agricultural machines in or something, but they're all open air.
And then the crowd spills out, obviously.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm asking questions as somebody who's never been, because I could never tolerate crowds that big or staying in a tent. Ever.
Right.
Well, understandable. It was not pleasant.
Yeah. So what I wanted to talk about. Sorry, I'm just pulling up the Bonnaroo lineup page from this year. just to have it handy here as well. This year's headliners were, it looks like Vampire Weekend, Kanye West on the Friday night. Okay, the Saturday night was Lionel Richie. Anything can happen at Bonnaroo.
Dancing on the ceiling, man.
Yeah, dancing on the ceiling. Yeah, he played a 20-minute. He played a 20-minute. Hello, is it me you're looking for? Anyway, I don't know if that's true. Jack White and then the Flaming Lips did a late set as well, and then on Sunday, an artist that's actually surprisingly has never played an American music festival before. Elton John he closed out the whole thing. Elton John was Bonnaroo's big headliner this year.
Wow,
so, pretty crazy.
Wow,
but kind of cool though too.
That's cool, but I don't think of him as that big of a headliner. He played Springfield, Illinois on his "I Need Money" tour a couple years ago.
Yeah. I mean, when he right. I think it kind of depends on, who he's with. Like when he plays a Billy Joel, he plays like Soldier Field, or something like that. But yeah, when it's just him, he'll hit up the smaller markets too. But he's got kind of a lot of iconic kind of cachet, I mean, it's
for sure.
Yeah. So interesting, like very as I've reiterated already quite a bit tonight, very eclectic and also anything's fair game at Bonnaroo.
Could
right?
Bonnaroo? So Bonnaroo can't jump the shark. Bonnaroo could have Miley Cyrus, and that would be kind of expected.
Yeah, I hope they don't, but they could.
Yeah. Okay,
they could. Yeah, I mean, they had Eminem
over under 5 years from now. Miley Cyrus plays Bonnaroo within 5 years. Would you take that bet?
I would actually.
Yeah. All right.
Because her music's awful, but she wants to party and
she seems like a partier. Yeah.
I mean, granted, it all looks a little contrived, but
she's
her
apparently she sampled
her stage show
on the new Alt J record.
She's on it.
They sample her on their new single, I guess. Somebody had to tell me it was her. I didn't know. That's fine. That's great.
Yeah,
and she's worked with the Flaming Lips too. So it's not that out of the question.
Wayne Coyne's a weirdo though, so I'm not going to
totally.
Yeah. But I mean, her stage show looks like a freaking Jeff Koons exhibit. I mean, it's.
I did the last year at the Illinois State Fair. Kesha played, and I did her loadout.
Yeah.
And on the stage was giant inflatable legs with high heels on them. Look like they're getting screwed.
Right.
And all over the stage is pounds of glitter and condoms. They were throwing sealed condoms to the kids in the crowd.
Yeah.
It was the most absurd ridiculousness I'd ever been a part of.
That was the Illinois State Fair.
Miley's shows will be even weirder. They'll be just a really buff guy will come out wearing a teddy bear mask. You know what I mean? Weird shit like that.
Oh yeah. It's am I at a Right Said Fred show?
Right. Speaking of which, man, let's put Right Said Fred on one of the smaller stages. All right. Anyway.
For sure.
Anyway. So yeah, as you can see, Bonnaroo will book just about anybody. And to answer Jonathan's question, yes, I would take that bet that she'll play it sometime soon.
Yeah.
I hope. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, there'll be 100 other good bands there. So I don't know if I think a lot and the variety. My last point before we get into our lineups, the volume of acts, the number of acts is so high there. I mean, the first year that Levi and I went, there weren't that many bands. There were 4 stages, and they didn't have this Thursday night thing, right? I mean, it was just the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They had the late night shows, but they weren't as high profile. And now it's it's just it's just dusk till it's morning till night, just music the whole time.
Was it
so? Even if Miley Cyrus is the headliner, I think a lot of people will shrug it off and be like, "Oh well, I'll just go watch something else."
Was it well organized those first couple of years?
guess.
as well as it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember there being like any major catastrophes that first year.
Yeah, I mean, you get that many.
It took a little while to get in, which I mean,
Right.
it always does at a festival.
Yeah, I don't, like Levi mentioned, I don't think they had like all the traffic routes down and everything like that to make that flow as smoothly. But now, 12 years later, it's a pretty well-oiled machine, I think. I mean, I think they probably know what they're doing.
So much money has flown and gone into that little county.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
It's like if you drive by stuff to get to the festival grounds, and it's like brand new libraries, brand new fire department, brand new municipal building.
You got like Maserati police cars and stuff.
Exactly.
Speaking of, I wonder if the Fuzz picks people off left and right during that, or if they've kind of laid off that.
Oh, I don't think that. I bet they don't want to. They know where their bread's buttered. Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah,
I mean, as long as you're not like swerving in the middle of your lane, I think you're pretty good. Yeah.
right, and I don't know. Like, I think most of it's contained on that farm outside of Manchester. That they just probably as long as nobody's got a gun, like
Right.
I think
Yeah.
I think they pretty much let it slide.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You just need big jars of peanut butter.
right. So anyway, so Levi, so just what we've got as far as I had everybody pick five artists.
Yep.
Okay. Headliner, a Friday night late night, Saturday night headliner, Saturday night late night, and then Sunday headliner. The Elton John type slot to close it out.
Yeah.
The only rules that I put up were there could be no reunions. Okay, so if you're salivating over the prospect of Led Zeppelin playing again, you got to scratch that, right? Because you get into too much fantasy territory there.
Oh yeah.
So none of that. And also, the band needs to have played live within the last 10 years, right? So that was the other. Those were the only rules. So, well, also one more. I take that back. The bands should be big enough, and there's a little bit of flexibility here, but the bands should be big enough that they would play on a big stage. Most likely. As much as there's so many artists out there that we all love, that just want to see them at Bonnaroo, but they're obviously not going to play a headlining slot. So anyway, Levi, I'm going to start with you. I'm dying to hear these, man. And they could have played Bonnaroo. One other thing, I'm sorry. They could have played Bonnaroo before. They could already have played Bonnaroo because, let's face it,
it's hard to find somebody who hasn't.
Yeah, it's hard. At this point, it's hard to find somebody who hasn't. I found a couple, but
I actually my one for Friday night is like. My Friday evening main stage pick is a band that I've seen before, but it's a band that I think a lot of people would like and would go to. And as far as I know, they haven't played Bonnaroo, and that was Aerosmith.
Nice.
I thought it would be like a no-brainer. You know what I mean? Get like Mike Myers to show up and do like a Wayne. Dana Carvey are there. Come on,
dude! Wayne and Garth introducing them—that would be awesome.
Yeah, and so that was for me. That was my Friday night.
I love it, man.
I want Aerosmith, and then
plus deep set list. You know what I mean? They could.
Oh yeah.
Seasons
the of Wither, man.
Yeah, dude, that's what I want to hear. Fuck yeah, man! I like where you're headed with this. Go on.
Yeah, and so as I leave Aerosmith, I gotta get my mind right and get ready to go to the late night show. And late night Friday night, kicking off the late night, getting everybody going. I got Beck.
Nice.
Beck is gonna play late night, and I think he's got the kind of music to where he could play. He doesn't have to play all hits, but he's got a lot of good songs and a lot of danceable songs, and he could definitely get a crowd into it.
Yeah,
he better not go out there then and play, like the new one in its entirety because don't get me wrong, I like it. It's really good.
Either.
But, you can't.
I love those records. No,
this is like we're playing, Midnight Vulture song. We got a full horn section.
Right.
So.
Right.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Beck's gonna get everybody dancing Friday night.
That'd be a party, man. Yeah, definitely.
And so, that was Friday night, and Saturday. I thought a good crowd pleaser act that would span multiple decades and multiple generations of people. Saturday night at the main stage is Dre and Snoop.
Nice.
And they're gonna. We got Chronic and Doggy Style in their entireties.
I'm loving it, dude.
Yeah,
loving it.
It's special. It's special. It's Bonnaroo, guys.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Yeah, that's awesome.
And
that is awesome, dude. Yeah.
Saturday night after that, I got to go back to the late night stage, and it's the last late night performance of Bonnaroo, so it's got to kick it off. And I went with another party, another dance.
Mm-hmm.
Prince.
Nice.
Prince is doing the late night at Bonnaroo, last late night.
And he hasn't played it yet.
No, and I think Prince could definitely get that crowd whipped up on a Saturday evening into Sunday morning. And he was one that I knew hadn't played, and it was like such a no-brainer. I was like, Prince needs to play Bonnaroo.
Right.
Absolutely. And so for our Elton John slot, as we'll call it, on Sunday evening, kind of get everybody in the mood to drive a bunch of hours home and everything. You know, he's going to come with some sing-along songs everybody knows, and that's Sir Paul McCartney.
Nice.
So
closing it out with Naka, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, that's Levi's Bonnaroo.
I like it. Very nice. Very nice. Excellent work, dude. Yeah, I love the Aerosmith pick. I really do. Yeah.
It's surprising that hasn't happened, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, those are all really feasible. You know, the Dre and Snoop and Aerosmith. Yeah, excellent work. Good deal.
I originally had two bands on there and was like, no one's going to go to those shows but me. Well, except maybe one. I had the Cult and was like, the Cult is just for me. I just would like to see the Cult play Bonnaroo. And then
dude, August 9th at the new music venue in Chicago, Concord.
I know.
Hall, and yeah, I want to go so badly.
Pageant.
Yeah.
They're playing the pageant too
nice.
in St. Louis.
Go to that.
I really want to go. Yeah.
Yeah, kick ass.
And
man.
The other band that really they didn't qualify. They played. I think their last show was in 2004, so like they technically under the rules, but I didn't want to do it. So that was the Beta Band. I would really like to see the Beta Band play Bonnaroo.
I could see that. Yeah, definitely. Very cool. Good choices, man. Yeah, the short list is always tough. I struggled with a couple of those too. So excellent work, man.
Thank you.
Jonathan, who hasn't been to Bonnaroo but is in charge of programming now.
Yeah. So I'm going to program it, and I'm going to watch it over just the internet. I'm not going to go.
You're not going.
Right.
Because
fans will give shout outs to you, but they'll be like, where's he at?
Right. Right. I would have a microphone, and I would just
wearing a robe, drinking a cup of tea,
Right. I would MC with a microphone, like my microphone here from my desk, and I would say that the next song will be. I think. I thought of my headliners first, and then I tried to order them in a way that I would keep me motivated throughout the weekend. And because you don't want to I don't want my super favorite, most anticipated act to be on Friday night, and then it starts to peter out by Saturday and Sunday. So a band that I've seen a couple times live, and they always amaze me how they're not only able to sound just as good as the studio, but even better than their studio stuff is the National. And I know the National might be breaking the rules a little bit, because I doubt that they would be slotted for that main stage, but I think that they have this. They can hold down that crowd. With the sound that they have, and their sound man is awesome. For the couple times I've seen them, and the National they just need to be given the chance. And
they are. I think they're headlining one night of Riot Fest. I believe so.
Yeah.
They haven't announced the schedule yet, but if you go to riotfest.org, you look at the lineup. They're like the third or fourth band listed, so I figure they got to be.
So they know.
They got to be on the main stage at least.
Yeah.
Not quite Bonnaroo, but still big festival.
Yeah. And then later that night, we're getting all the hipsters in one area, is Broken Social Scene. And
Okay.
Again, this is another personal favor for me to see Broken Social Scene, because I've never seen them live. And again, I might be stretching it a little bit because they aren't that big of an act. But if Bonnaroo were held in Canada, then they could easily do this.
Is everybody who's attending the show, Jonathan, going to ride from Brooklyn on a 10-speed bike or
Right.
something?
On
right?
a
They'll have a tattoo of a star right there, and they'll brew their own beer on the way to the show, right?
Waxed
Exactly.
mustaches.
Yep.
2 words.
Somebody's got to bring me all my craft beer. All right.
That's true. It's true. Little farm-to-table restaurants opening up at Bonnaroo. Menu in lowercase. Anyway.
All right.
So,
But then on Saturday night, I'm going. It's a little bit reunion, but these guys did get together in the last few years, so that made them eligible. Saturday night, main stage, Stone Roses. And maybe they've played Bonnaroo before. I don't know.
they haven't. No.
Oh, they haven't.
Coachella's the only American appearance they made when they got back together a few years ago.
Yeah. So Stone Roses, they could 20-minute I Am the Resurrection, easy. Yeah. And if they wanted to, they could segue into their own late night DJ set if they really wanted to.
Yeah.
So.
Going back to a little Madchester,
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
I can get behind that,
yeah.
man. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of my pseudo reunion, I guess.
Right. They got back together. I mean, I don't know if they're playing any shows this summer, but they've toured the last couple summers. It's all been overseas, but
So, but then, and then we educate the kids. Late Saturday, John Fogerty. We keep the old man up late.
I like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he comes out and he tears up that Tennessee countryside.
Oh,
the old man's down the roo.
That's right.
That's right. Estel, we saw Fogerty at Farm Aid '97,
awesome,
and stole the show.
Hands
down.
I don't even remember any other acts. He was so good.
I think he played it and it was still daylight out, and he was amazing. Right. He blew the roof off of Tinley Park.
He had just gotten the rights to those songs back,
right?
So he was like he had been uncorked. He was ready to go, man.
And that was he was touring on Blue Moon Swamp, I believe.
Which is a good record.
Great
record. A really good record.
Yeah. Fogerty there to educate all the kids there late Saturday night.
Nice.
And then Sunday to end it, I just slotted Soundgarden.
Good.
And Soundgarden,
nice.
Not to, and Levi, I took your lead here, and I went ahead and made the set list, and it's not Super Unknown in its entirety. It's Down on the Upside in its entirety, and that will blow their minds to close Bonnaroo.
That's good. That's more of, aside from pretty. That there's some Sunday songs on that one as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Some more acoustic stuff at times. Yeah,
I could dig on that. You're just kind of trying to get your head together that last night.
Yeah.
Some Soundgarden lesser known tunes. I like it, man.
Yeah.
One thing, if you guys get a chance, there's plenty of footage of the Stone Roses, the shows they played over the last couple summers when they got back together. They played the big, festivals in Norway where they played to 150,000 people or something like that. Ian Brown, the audience is singing along, blah blah blah. He stops, he looks around, he's like, still got it. And then he walks off. I'm like, that's boss. Right?
Yeah, that's a fucking rock star.
Nice.
Still got it.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Oh my gosh. All right, excellent choices all around, guys. Some surprises too. Definitely. For mine, this was tough. I did have a last minute change to one of my headliners. I'd gone back and forth all week on it, and I was like, you know what? my lineup's a little geriatric, but that's okay. So on Friday night, Levi and I must have been drinking the same Kool-Aid because I have Prince as my Friday night headliner. I debated whether or not he should be in the late night slot. I wasn't sure. But maybe Prince could kick it off a little later, at 9, or 9:30, play until midnight or something like that. So for my Friday night, I also have Prince. He's a guy I've always wanted to play it. He's a guy that's also not afraid to play whatever the hell he wants live as well. The reviews in recent years, I think people like us would probably love them because he's not afraid to play some 15-minute fusion jam, jazz jam,
20-minute pussy control.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I think the radio kind of casual fans might walk away a little disappointed. So yeah, Prince does what he wants, so he would fit the Bonnaroo ethos definitely. And then for Friday late night, they've been in this slot before, and they brought out a lot of guests. And they also, since they played, I don't think they played the first year that Levi and I went, but I think they played the year after that, and they played just about every year since. As my Friday late night, I chose my morning jacket. Because they've got a lot of Bonnaroo clout now, it seems like, and I think they like to collaborate with just about anybody. A few years ago, there's some great footage of it on YouTube. Kirk Hammett came out and played with them on One Big Holiday. I think it was this. Obviously, it was the same year that Levi went there. Yeah, and they did the R. Kelly thing a couple of years ago. They seem to just want to invite all the players, and they seem to me like sort of the band that typifies they're sort of the preeminent Bonnaroo band right now. Just sort of how they approach music, the diversity of their influences, the fact that they love to play long shows if the situation calls for it. They would bring it as they've brought it before. So I've got my morning jacket Friday late night. My Saturday headliner, this one was a little tough because my initial choice I changed and I went back and forth. This was a big tour a few years ago, and I always wanted to see it just because I heard good reviews of it. I chose Roger Waters as my Saturday headliner. He toured, it seemed like forever, on the Wall a couple of years ago. He played Soldier Field. He was playing, baseball stadiums and arenas and all. He took it out there and really, really milked the Wall for all it was worth. And while I'd like to see him with Gilmour, he's got Snowy White on guitar right now, which is one of the best rock and roll handles ever. Snowy White, who played with Thin Lizzy for a little while, just a really good session guy. So, he's got a pretty good band with him, and just to see the spectacle of the Wall, at Bonnaroo would be pretty cool. Just the unison of it all, the crowd singing, the visuals, all of that would be pretty neat, big spectacle. Why not? So I've got Roger Waters as my Saturday headliner, and then my Saturday late night show, I chose this act because no matter really who's in the band, I'll always love them, and I always love him, I guess, at this point. And also it accommodates the band's or the lead singer's lack of punctuality. I chose Guns N' Roses as my late night headliner on Saturday. Why not? Just let's throw down, man.
Do you tell Axl
Paradise
that
City,
he's scheduled
Paradise
for
City
9
Bonnaroo,
so that he's ready to go at 2?
What's that?
You tell Axl that he's scheduled for 9 so that he's ready to go at 2. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Since at Bonnaroo they don't really, it's whatever. You start your set at 2 a.m. no problem. So he'll do it. And I don't know, I totally have from childhood a soft spot for Axl. I always will. And if you've looked at the set list that he's played with this incarnation of Guns N' Roses, they play 3-hour shows. I mean, whether or not you like some Chinese Democracy songs thrown in, which I actually think that album is better than people give it credit for. I don't. It's kind of grown on me in a strange way. Yeah, they play like 3+ hour shows, which would fit Bonnaroo. They play a lot of covers, good covers too. Like they do The Seeker. They do Don't Let It Bring You Down. Yeah, so that would be fun. They would invite people up there. They
maybe
seem
a Slash reunion.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll keep our fingers crossed. Yeah.
Anything can air, it would be Bonnaroo, man.
Well, Slash is kind of like the one guy that probably wouldn't rejoin because since this, Axl's trotted out whatever version of Guns N' Roses that he has over the last 10, 12 years, if not a little longer, Duff got back with them. I don't know if you saw that for a few shows.
Yeah, for a little, yeah.
Yeah, he played like 5 or 6 shows with them, so they're friendly. And then Izzy Stradlin sat in with them on multiple occasions too.
Yeah.
And I think so did Steven Adler once. So basically, like everybody but Slash could rejoin. I mean, so yeah, and when people bash this version of Guns N' Roses, I totally get it. I totally get why you would do that.
Yeah.
But to like call like Tommy Stinson, who is the bass player for one of the best bands of the 1980s, and also one of my favorite bands in the Replacements. I kind of take offense to that when people are like, oh, like Tommy Hansen. I got my mind on baseball. Tommy Stinson isn't a hack. You know what I mean? Like that's not just any guy holding the bass guitar for me. So when people are like, oh, like these guys are scabs or whatever. It's kind of offensive,
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot of it is that they're not true enough music fans to know who those people are.
Right, exactly, yeah. Some good people have passed through this version of Guns N' Roses as well. Robin Fink, who played with Nine Inch Nails, played with them. Brain from Primus played drums with them for a while.
Don't forget Buckethead.
Buckethead, yeah, right. Richard Fortus, who was in the Psychedelic Furs, which is kind of weird, but I like the Psychedelic Furs. So some good people.
What it goes to show is like Axl has some really eclectic fucking parties at his house. Man.
I bet he does. Because
it's like.
Right.
It's like I got the guy from the Replacements. This guy's in the band. It's
totally.
like the weirdest melting pot. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. He's like Living Color coming over later. Like.
yeah.
So, God. Speaking of which, man, God, put Vernon Reid in that lead guitar slot. God.
Yeah.
Rip. Anyway, so yeah, I've got Guns N' Roses on late night. Just why not, man? Tearing it up. And then Sunday, I think I went as big as you can go. Why not the Stones to close out Bonnaroo? They've only got a couple years left to do it, I think.
Well, yeah, and they haven't, so yeah.
And they haven't, and like as I mentioned earlier, Bonnaroo is so big now that it can book anybody. Like the Stones aren't off limits, No. I mean, McCartney has played, I mean, Elton John, Metallica, Pearl Jam, anybody, like they can get anybody. So the Stones. Why not just break out the checkbook and have the Stones close out Bonnaroo?
Nice.
It's only rock and roll, So
nice.
Why not? So that's mine, man. Yeah,
well done.
Good stuff all around. Yeah. So that's mine. One thing I also wanted to do before we get to our baseball cards, I wanted to talking on the subject of festivals and music festivals. Had one other kind of homework assignment where we selected, if we had a time machine, a festival that we could attend. And, the only rules that I kind of threw up there were, probably the two most iconic festivals of all time, Woodstock and Monterey Pop, just for their places in history. I decided to exclude those. Those are like two obvious choices as well, So yeah, no Woodstock or Monterey, but everything else is open, and you could do something that just happened once, or you could select maybe a certain year of a recurring festival, like this year of Bonnaroo, this year of Glastonbury, this year of Download, any of the other big European festivals. You could do that as Lollapalooza, whatever. You could do that as well. So want to go ahead and talk about those. Levi, what about yours for your you've got the time machine.
This was
your festival.
and this was, I know that we're all fans of classic style rock and that, so I can we're all probably going to get that era, but it was tough not to choose that era.
Right.
There was some really cool festivals in the 80s. It would have been cool to see Live Aid or any of that kind of stuff. But the one I ended up on was in the last weekend of July 1969 in Seattle, Washington, and it was called the Seattle Pop Festival. And this is a rundown of the artists that were there. I'm going to name a couple of bands that I hadn't heard of until I read this, and then I went and they some of them sounded okay. The first band I had never heard of, Chrome Circus, and it's spelled Syrcus, Circus.
All right.
And there's no H in Chrome. They were very trendy. Yes.
Good. Psychedelic type name.
Yes.
Right.
And then we got some bands, Albert Collins, Santana, Bo Diddley, the Flying Burrito Brothers, the Youngbloods, 10 Years After, Tim Buckley, It's a Beautiful Day, the Guess Who, the Byrds, Ike and Tina Turner, Lonnie Mack, Chicago, when they were known as the Chicago Transit Authority. This was like in their first year of touring. Tim Buckley played again as well as Santana on the second day. And then Spirit was there. I got a line on you. Vanilla Fudge.
Underrated.
Zeppelin. The last night is Led Zeppelin, Lee Michaels, then the Doors.
Jesus.
So
Christ.
Yeah, it was a festival, man.
That's insane.
It sounded like it would have been a really good time.
Yeah, that's almost better than Woodstock to me, right there. Throwing the Doors on the bill too. Yeah.
Doors, Zeppelin.
Yeah, Doors. Right.
Lee Michaels. Not a lot of people know Lee Michaels. He had the one hit. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It was hit in the early 70s.
Right.
He was known more as like a psychedelic organ master. Mm-hmm. He played keys and was known for crazy long shows and everything. He played with the drummer from a band called Sweat Hog. Was his drummer.
Nice. Would Graham Parsons have been in the Byrds or the Burrito Brothers then?
He might have been in both.
He might have been pulling double duty.
Yeah.
He might have been pulling double duty.
They both were there. They were both there, so he was there in some capacity.
Right. Very cool, man. Excellent choice. And that's one of those festivals with such a stellar lineup that probably gets overshadowed by Woodstock.
I had never heard of it before.
The other concerts from that year. Yeah. Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah. There's an interesting omission from that, obviously, if you think of Seattle and 69 would have been, Jimi Hendrix obviously was pretty active.
Right.
So, yeah. Huh.
Good stuff, man. Absolutely. Jonathan, what about you, man? What do you have for?
So, So I found one that, admittedly, I didn't know anything about until I read about it. 1974 at the Missouri State Fairgrounds in Sedalia, which I've been to the Missouri State Fair. It's not quite as good as the Illinois State Fair. It's a fraction of the size.
Not saying much.
Well, no, it is. If you really appreciate the Illinois State Fair when you've been to other state fairs, seriously.
Plug for the fair.
Yeah, honest, yeah. But the Ozark Music Fest was held in July '74, and the motto "No hassles guaranteed."
It's
a good motto.
Oh, yeah,
pretty good.
Yeah, they're
pretty good.
T-shirts with like a thumbs up.
Yeah. So basically, 350,000 people showed up to this thing. They claimed they were selling this
300 more than they thought.
They were thinking just about 50,000 was what they were selling to the authorities.
And also not like Woodstock. This is like good Midwestern kids, man.
Right.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's just ready to party.
Yes. Yeah. So and I'm interested. And again, I'm watching from my computer in 1974. I'm not actually there. But So I'm it's more fascinating just from the cultural standpoint and the music as well. It's probably not all my favorite bands or by any means in terms of 70s music festivals, but it wasn't bad. So yeah, Bachman Turner Overdrive, Aerosmith, Blue Oyster Cult, Eagles, Marshall Tucker, Boz Scaggs, Nugent, Skinnerd. Springsteen was slated but didn't perform. Seeger.
That'd have been an early spring. A lot of the audience probably wouldn't have known who he
No,
was.
right? Yeah.
74. Yeah.
Seeger, Charlie Daniels, Ozark Mountain Daredevils, of course. REO, Spirit.
Sign me the fuck up.
Damn.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid itinerary there.
And all rock, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
74. Prague was still pretty big, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Yeah.
74 is sort of the one of the heights of Prague, you know, like Yes and
And
Genesis
they did-
and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and
They did have a prog band, and unfortunately, I'm not familiar with them, but they were, I think, this Italian prog band or something. And I'm not even going to try the name because I'll butcher it. So, but so it was so out of hand apparently that there was a state senate committee investigation into the festival after it concluded.
Yeah,
I know. That's when you know you've got a boss.
Right. So, and there's
they had sold the festival as like a bluegrass thing or something.
Right. Yeah. And sure enough,
they're like, we've got Bill Monroe and also Ted Nugent. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So they they're doing a documentary on it. It's the 40th anniversary of this month of this, and so I watched a trailer on YouTube for this documentary, and sure enough, it was kind of debaucherous. And there's lots of photos, NSFW photos of people walking out willy nilly, so to speak.
Lots of nudity, yes.
Yeah, and for Sedalia, Missouri, this was probably a bit much. But I mean, there were comparisons to Sodom and Gomorrah, and
Awesome.
and the quote of the Senate committee report for this was, "Natural and unnatural sex acts became a spectator sport." So,
Everybody's just pounding Schlitz, man, getting ready to fucking rock to Aerosmith.
Yeah, it's basically like a rock festival in the middle of Mayberry RFD.
right.
Absolutely.
And so it looked interesting because it looks like, and I don't know, maybe Woodstock did this, but they had the main stage and they just had a main stage left and a main stage right. So you would just watch to the left and then watch to the right. That like the next band would be on the right. And so they were able to do the set changes quickly that way, I guess. So
I like that.
Little downtime in between bands.
Stages at a festival.
Yeah, you just turn to the left and then turn to the right, and that's it. So, Ozark Music Fest, 1974. Oh, it was like 105 degrees apparently as well. So.
Oh my god! No wonder people were naked.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, there's not a dude with a shirt on in any photos I've seen of this festival, nor a girl.
No.
So.
Man.
No, the largest pant size was a 30.
Oh man, that lineup just brings a smile to my face, man.
I saw that and was like, wow, what a good lineup.
Hell yeah. So for me, I chose a festival from the same year as the Ozark Festival. I'm kind of one of those people, like, if you ever to like hold a gun to my head and say 60s or 70s, what's it going to be? I choose the 70s, yeah, right. Just cause you got the whole decade, you know what I mean?
Agree.
So, I chose, pretty high profile show. It was videotape. You can watch some of the footage. I chose the California Jam, the first one from 1974. Yeah. Really, for me, what drew it to me was kind of, I think, what would be the three headliners. Deep Purple, it was one of Coverdale's first gigs. And the more Deep Purple I listened to, the more I actually like the David Coverdale albums. There's only like 2 or 3 of them. But they were just trying some really cool stuff, and then they brought Tommy Bolin into the band as well, and Glenn Hughes too. So they got kind of funkier. So Deep Purple, like, I think a lot of people don't really know this. Maybe like a lot of people our age don't listen to Deep Purple or younger than us. Like, I didn't know until I've read up more on them, mainly in Classic Rock magazine, that Deep Purple was like just ridiculously huge. Like, they flew into this festival like their own private jet that like said Deep Purple on the side of it. You know what I mean? They were like swimming in money. Because I think a lot of it too, because they got so big over in Europe as well. Mm-hmm. Probably bigger over there than they were over here, but they were still an arena band over here.
Oh yeah.
And also, switched lead singers at the height of their popularity and didn't really phase them either. As far as popularity goes.
Yeah. Predated Van Halen.
Yeah, right. And like I said, I'm as the years have gone on, I've grown more partial to the Coverdales too. So they were the headliner. They were they actually, I think they mixed the schedule around at the last minute. So I think a lot of people thought they were going to play last, but they didn't. The other two headliners were Black Sabbath. So Sabbath in '74, it's like just Sabbath at like the height of its powers. Right before. And I like their latter albums, but a lot of people don't. Right before, like, the quality of their work in many people's eyes started to decline a little bit with Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. So yeah, '74. They would have been right off of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, I think. Right before Sabotage. So just killer show. Right before also, like, they. Ozzy started to get pretty tore up, so it was like kind of Sabbath at like, you saw them at like kind of the end of their prime, even though they went on for a few years afterwards and still put on some good shows. The end of the really, good like 70 to 74 Sabbath. And then also the other act, which also I don't think a lot of people, particularly younger people, realize how huge they were. Emerson, Lake and Palmer was so huge. And also 1974, so Emerson, Lake and Palmer, extremely popular. And I like ELP, I always have, but they are one of those bands that it's always perplexed me, like how they got so popular. Like, how does like somebody make music like that inaccessible and like they sold out like Madison Square Garden like 3 nights in a row in like 1975, or something. They sold it out quite a bit. So you have those three as your headliners, 3 bands, nearly at the height of their popularity. So really just total heavy hitters right there with those 3. And then, you've also got an eclectic lineup in the sense that Earth, Wind, and Fire, played it. Rare Earth played it. Another good under it. Black Oak, Arkansas. The Eagles, so 74 would have been wasn't the Eagles' first album like 72, 73, something like that?
Yeah, I'm trying to know, was Walsh in the band then? Or was
no, he didn't join until Hotel California, right? Yeah, 76. So the Eagles one, actually, I still would have I still wouldn't mind listening to the Eagles then. And also Seals and Croft. Right? I mean, you can't have a music festival without Black Sabbath and Seals and Croft, right?
Well, yeah. If we've said it once, we saw it again, man. 20-minute Diamond Girl.
Right. So you kind of had some sets for the lovers there as well, with Seals and Croft. And then,
there's a little yacht rock festival.
Yeah, right.
It's so weird.
So so very very eclectic lineup, but also in my opinion, 3 are really the best bands of of the early to mid 70s as headliners. So really that sealed the deal for me. So I thought about a few others. I had thought about maybe Watkins Glen, but it's like they only had like 3 or 4 bands there. Don't get me wrong, they were amazing bands, but there's almost too many people at that one. There's tons of other good ones. So those are the festivals if we had the time machine. Nice. Good choices all around.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, we're going to go ahead and show our cards now to close it out with a baseball segment. So, Levi, I'll let you go ahead and start us off, man. What do you got?
This card was a card I never owned, obviously, because it was way too expensive when I was a kid. But as I've gotten older and as all the cards have gone down in price, I picked one up just so I could have it. Because to me, it kind of almost exemplifies my youth in one card.
Okay.
And that is the 1989 King Griffey Jr. rookie card.
Gorgeous card, dude. Just gorgeous.
Card number 1 of the then just released 1989 Upper Deck, and they were revolutionary at the time. No more wax packs, so
right.
you didn't have to worry about like the weird CD up, like taking an iron and resealing all the pack where you took out the rookie card.
Right.
They had
a piece of the most
hologram on the back
I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, holograms on the back, so they were not counter. You could tell if you had a real Upper Deck card or not.
Yep.
They were also 99 cents a pack, right?
Yeah, which
yeah.
That was twice like as much as Topps.
Yeah.
They changed the game, man. They were game changers though that year. Kind of the beginning and the end of like baseball card collecting, you know, like they revolutionized it, but at the same time they kind of indirectly just kind of tore it down too.
Yep. That card was unattainable as a child to me. It was like hundreds of dollars.
So coveted.
And I think I ended up getting it on eBay for like $8 or something.
Wow, that's so sad. Yeah. That's so sad.
yeah. Same thing with I got a McGuire USA Olympic card that was like unattainable when I was a kid. I think I paid $3 for it.
Yeah.
I have multiple Canseco 86 Donruss rookie cards. I got them 2 for $1.
Damn.
Wow.
He looks so, I mean, obviously he is young, but just like he looks so youthful in that photo and like just just kind of ready for the stage, you know, like that guy.
Oh yeah.
That guy's a headliner, like, man. You know, like that.
Hey,
guy
I'm gonna tear it up.
Yeah, he's a beautiful man. You know, he was. Yeah. I'm secure enough to say that he is. Yeah.
Hey, first father and son tandem as well in baseball when he came out. So.
Yeah. We're all three of us were lucky to watch basically his whole career. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, nice. Good stuff, man. Good card. Wow. Jonathan, what about you?
I got to say also, he had a really fun, I think it was like 1994 Super Nintendo game, King Griffey Jr. Baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out.
I don't remember that one vividly, but I remember the game, yeah.
It was not licensed. I think like one of the players' names was like Can of Corn or something like that.
Right.
It was just Griffey, and then
yeah.
Everybody else,
wow. Yeah. Well, mine is only 7 years prior, but it seems like a world before the Griffey. 82 Donruss, Raleigh Fingers,
nice.
Autographed, you might see there.
What?
Yeah. So we had my mom's family. My mom grew up in Wisconsin, and so a lot of family up in Wisconsin. And we have, I have this entire 82 Donruss Brewers team set autographed. And awesome. That was incidentally
Yount, dude, you got Yount as well?
Yeah, it should obviously be in there.
Yeah, you would in 82.
This was, of course, then the year that they went to the series. So this was the team that took them to the series.
The Cardinals beat them that year, right?
Right. Yeah. Which is really interesting too, because this. There are books about that team and like locally produced books in Milwaukee about that team, and it's fascinating to think that, you know, the Brewers they've never won a World Series there in Milwaukee, but that's as close as they got. So like that's who gets the books, and that's who still has the notoriety, even though they didn't win it. But it's almost treated as if they did win the series. So so Raleigh Fingers, obviously nice. One of the more charismatic and famous Milwaukee Brewers, and obviously the champion mustache bearer in the history of the major leagues. That's it.
Yeah, man, and that's neat. Like you said, they still hold those guys in high regard, and that's exactly how it is in Chicago. Like, I think Jody Davis still gets like free steaks down at like
definitely
Harry Carey's
lifetime pass. Yeah, you know, and it. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you can go.
Well, you know, we were talking earlier about, you know, biggest surprises of this year. outside of the team, the Brewers are pretty good this
yeah.
year. Like they haven't collapsed yet.
Right.
So we'll see. I think like if they get to the playoffs, like I think a team like St. Louis could certainly overpower them in the playoffs, but. They got a good squad, man.
Yeah.
Surprisingly,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people pick the Brewers to be right down there with the Cubs, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
So good stuff, man. Levi, what were you going to say? I'm sorry, man. I interrupted you.
No, I was just. I think it's funny too. Those teams are held in so high regards, like the Brewers and stuff, and the Cubs, and it's what those towns have to hold on to because it was the closest they got to glory.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. My card is one of the more famous players of the '80s who had spectacles, but in this photo, he's not wearing them.
Sabo.
And he looks like he can't see either.
Right.
No,
Like,
he's blind.
The photographer's like, Chris, smile, man, smile. He's like, I can't see anything. I wear the glasses. I'm the guy with the glasses. I can't see anything. So this is Chris Sabo without his glasses on, and he's squinting. Yeah, this is a Bowman. Still one of the longer cards.
So that's 88 or 89 Bowman.
89 or 90.
89 or 90. Yeah.
89.
89. Yeah. They were the tall ones. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah. Sabo. That's weird.
He always
to see.
had the goggles, man, like the basketball player goggles.
Yeah, the lame
Absolutely.
beers. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, played on some good Reds teams there in
definitely.
89, 90. Yeah. Definitely.
I remember his rookie cards. Everybody wanted one.
He was an all-star rookie. He was a Topps all-star rookie. I remember that.
Yeah.
And then he got Rookie of the Year, right? Didn't he? He beat out Jerome Walton got it in 89.
In 89, yeah.
Sabo in 88, maybe? No?
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway. Well, great. Well, good stuff, guys, all around, man. This was fun. Fun episode, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll keep it going. Maybe on the Facebook page, the Bonnashu, excuse me. We could post some of the set list if we wanted to, albums that we'd like to hear them play in their entirety. So
links galore coming. Oh, by the way, Sabo won 1988 NL Rookie of the Year.
Okay, all right,
88. Nice.
Right. I always get him
Fact
and Walton
checker.
confused with when they won. So yeah, good stuff, boys. Well, I will see you. I'll see you soon. Take care.
All right.
All right.
Have a good one.
Happy trails.